welcome to Family Matters. I'm your host, Ray Johnson, and today we have a special guest. We're going to be talking about financial matters and consider your ways. I have Dr. Eric Cooper here, so you stay tuned and we'll be right back.
No matter where you live, life in the ocean depends on you. To help protect our ocean, recycle and dispose of your trash properly. To learn what you can do, go to keepoceansclean.org.
Well, welcome back to Family Matters, and again, I thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Ray Johnson, and as I said, today we're talking about financial matters with Dr. Eric Cooper, and we're talking about consider your ways. So, Dr. Cooper, thank you for stopping by once again.
Pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for inviting us.
Good. Well, first thing, just tell me a little bit about yourself so our audience can get familiar with you a little bit.
Okay, good. Eric Cooper. I'm native Washingtonian, minister first priority, and I guess I've been given the assignment of family and finance, and I've been working in that area along with my wife Phyllis, and of course I have two sons, Eric and Philip, and just again a pleasure of being here with you to share with you and your audience again.
Yeah. You know, and these are the kind of financial times we're going through, and you know, we've been hearing about bailout and, you know, all those things going on.
Added to the dictionary.
Right, yeah. We have a new word, bailout,
Yes,
you know, and all these things going on, but that's on a large scale, and that's great for the government, and they can write checks for billions of dollars, but that doesn't apply to most of us. You know, if we just had the government's billions of dollars, we wouldn't have a financial problem, but that's not the case.
Of course, with the bailout money that was given, if it could have been every person in America that could have been given $1 million, and we all could have gotten bailed out.
Right, yeah, there you go. And
Yes,
it's our
sir.
money anyway, right?
Correct.
You know, ultimately.
We are the government.
We are the government. But of course, we know that's not going to happen. So each
That's
one
right.
of us have to have our own financial plan that's going to help us succeed. So talk to me about this. Consider your ways. Talk to me a little bit about the concept of this and what you've been doing with it.
Okay. Well, it was birthed out in a situation where my wife and I were going through. We was looking at buying another property, and we was talking to different advisors and loan officers, and they was telling us different things about what we need to straighten out on our credit report. However, we were told that's what we had to do, but we would never give any information of how to actually make that happen. And so as a result of going through the different processes and procedures to make it work in our own lives, of course, being an author, everything I do is kind of documented and write it down. Right. So I eventually developed a teaching series of Consider Your Ways to help and assist others with going through some of the same things that we have gone through in the past.
Okay. And, you know, information acted on is power. You know, we would say knowledge is power, but information acted on is power. So what we're going to do is we're just going to share some practical things, and that's really what it's about, some practical things.
Just definitely grassroots type of information for those who are in different situations and trying to go to the next level.
And I notice in here, one of the things we talk about is, and as, you know, men of God, we talk about God's financial plan. Dealing with tithes and offering and, you know, those types of things. So just talk to us a little bit about being a good steward as we look at this and God's financial plan as you see it.
Well, the thing I've learned throughout the course of the research is that there's about 200 verses in the Bible on faith and salvation, but there's over 2,000 that was written on stewardship and finance.
And when talking about consider your ways, I know you have a list here of 10 things, and we'll just get into a lot of things. And I noticed the first step is identify your problem.
In every area, a lot of people will have a marriage problem, just to find out what it is that's causing that particular area, or if it's a health issue, find out what it is. And once you find out what it is, you can begin to work to the cure of what it is that you have. You know, of course, anybody has had alcoholism, for instance, they always tell you, you know, the first step is to identify that you do have a problem. If you're a thief, identify that you have a problem, whatever it is that it is. And so we have to stop fooling ourselves to think that we can just continue to make it from day to day or paycheck to paycheck per se. And identify that there's obviously a root problem as to what's going on, why at the end of the month I don't have enough money, why I don't have any in my savings, why I don't have, you know, a retirement fund set up, all those things. So once we identify that we do have a problem, then we can begin to act on it and do some practical things to resolve the issue that we have.
Okay. Because I believe it was Einstein, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different result. You know? So we have to change. We have to consider our ways first off, and then we have to make the appropriate changes. And sometimes we need that information, and that's what you're giving us today. Now, I noticed number 2, and you sort of alluded to it about developing a plan. And when we're talking about finances, the thing you mentioned is creating a budget. Talk to us about that in a little deeper, if you wish.
Well, in any business areas, of course, you're a businessman as well. You know that you have to have a plan of operation. He who fails to plan obviously plans to fail. And so it is with our finance area. We just can't make money. Money has to be made, managed, and then eventually it'll be multiplied. So once you create that plan, we've talked to a variety of people and couples and ministries across the country we've shared with, and you find out how many people don't really have a budget. So they get paid, but they have no real system as to where the money is going once they get it. And so once you create that budget, just like a corporation, just like a business, your family, your home is actually a business. I mean, it's not just a place you come to watch TV and go to sleep. It's actually a corporation, you know. And so once you begin to treat it like that, you have a budget and outline of how much does it cost to run this family each month, how much does it cost to run this family throughout the year. And then, of course, you project those things and then kind of stay within those guidelines as to where you are and what you have set up coming in. And again, the biggest failure is that your income has to exceed your outgo.
Right.
And so once you understand that, you can kind of work your budget accordingly.
Okay. And a lot of people just don't understand you're saying budget, and I like the concept because we really don't think of our family unit as a corporation, as a business in and of itself. So I like that thought process, that if we start thinking of it as a business, it will probably help us greatly. Now, the next thing you talk about is find yourself an anointed man or woman of God. Talk to us about this, having someone to lead us, as it were.
It is so crucial. And if you look at the Bible, you see the different prophets that have come, and they, the widow woman, for instance, that, if you give me a piece of your cake first and then make one for yourself afterwards, she went back and oil was constantly flowing over and over again. So it is with our lives. We, of course, have a great pastor in this area, Pastor Dr. Freeman, and that whole structure of understanding how to find an anointed person of God. There's others, of course, that, throughout the country that you know of. Find the wisdom of God in their answers and the things that they're going through. Once you do that, you're able to not only use your own wisdom and your understanding, but someone that you can connect with to, have a spiritual father, mentor that can help you with those areas as well.
Oh, that's great principle there. Now, this is one that really gets people. Sow a seed. You have to give your way out of debt. Well, that just that goes against human nature. So talk to us about that principle.
It is so interesting. I guess mainly because in this area that we live in, there are very few farms that are left over. However, you went further south or, further out in PG County or different areas, you see more farms in that area. And if you ever talk with a farmer, he will let you know that the only way you see these rows and rows and rows of corn is because he has planted seeds to produce that type of crop and that type of harvest, be it greens, be it peas, whatever it is, seeds have been planted first in order to reap that harvest. We, on the other hand, don't think about life as that concept. In order to reap a harvest, you have to sow a seed in order to make that come to pass.
And I notice your scripture reference, Ecclesiastes 11:4 says, "He who observes the wind and waits for all conditions to be favorable will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap." So it's never appears to be a perfect situation, right?
Not. And of course, the new word, as you alluded to earlier, the R word, as we call it in the business environment, has come about. Everybody's talking about recession, and you're waiting for a situation to get better. Well, the president has already told the world system that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So when is it going to ever happen? You don't know. So you have to just kind of go out and do what you need to do to make
And
it
there's
happen.
one thing about that, and we know thousands of people have lost their jobs, and this year, and as they're talking about how bleak things are. But even before that, the government is there, and they can produce paper money, but people have their own personal recessions going on in their life, regardless of what. The government doesn't have to tell them. They have their own personal recession that's going on, and that could have been going on for years. They're not waiting for the government to tell them. This one is actually key. We've been talking about some principles, but number 5, change your ways.
Yes. Well, the whole book concept of that teaching manual is called Consider Your Ways. Once you find out your ways, you have to really consider what it is that you're doing, how you've gotten to this point. And now, again, as you said, also the insanity piece, if you keep doing the same thing, then you know you're going to end up going to the same place. So you have to find a different way to do it, and that is to change your ways. And I mentioned here to change your spending habits, change your shopping habits, possibly even change your friends. Because if you have a friend and you're trying to save money and they keep calling you to say, let's go shopping, let's go out to eat, then you need to cut that friend off for a while until you get yourself situated. And then you can go to the mall and eat out and everything else. But in order for anything to work, you really have to evaluate where you are. And if you find out that it hasn't led you to the place that you want to be, then you have to change that way and that format and then move on to another area.
And what are some practical things that people maybe need to do to see where they're at? Should they pick a week, pick a month, write down what they're doing? What's some practical things they can do to figure out where they're at? A lot of people have no idea where their money's going.
Well, again, back to the other part of creating a budget, developing a plan, a strategy of where you are, where you want to go, and then, of course, to do that evaluation, you can pretty much work your way through a variety of it.
Where you're at.
Exactly.
And the other biblical principle is like your pockets have holes, right?
Yes, and that's that root scripture from Consider Your Ways. You have money, but you keep putting it into a bag that seems like it has holes in it, and you can't figure out why. It's like you really have to consider what's going on.
So stop and literally write down everything you're doing and how you're spending, and that'll help us. Number 6 is your money must have a mission, an assignment. What are we talking about there?
Well, that comes from that great old thing that's been put out into the system called an ATM card, or automatic debit card, that banks have given to everyone, including children. So you go to the bank, or you go to the grocery store, and every time you look on the counter or cash register area, it's the debit card there where you can swipe, and it always asks you, do you want money back? Well, you've already bought what you wanted, so now you get another $50 out, and you just get it out because it's available to you at that particular point, and you have no idea where it's going to go. That $50 is taken out, but it has no mission, it has no assignment. Later on, you get back home, and you have about $15 left, and you can't figure out what happened with the rest of the money. It's because that money, exactly, it didn't have an assignment, didn't have a purpose. You just took it out of the bank or withdrew it out the ATM or from the grocery store because you could. So every time you have money, take it out, already having your mind where it's going to go. Are you going to go to the gas station? Are you going to go to, the movies, or wherever you're going to go? Make sure that whatever it is that you have, you know where it's going to go.
It has an assignment.
Exactly.
And that's good to know. And one of the things we're going to talk about, and when we come back, we're going to look at these other 3 points. But in these times, we're talking about some principles, some foundational things, but many times people need help in order to accomplish this. And they need to make sure when they're considering their ways, as it were, where are they on life insurance and these different things that are out there. So we're going to get into that when we come back and look at the rest of these points. So you stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
There are some things in life you can control, and this booklet can help. From keeping your family healthy to saving for retirement. Order your free copy now from the American Diabetes Association, because we want everyone to be healthy and happy.
Well, welcome back to Family Matters. I'm your host, Ray Johnson. We're here with Dr. Eric Cooper, and today we're talking about financial matters. And what we're talking about is consider your ways, and these are just some foundational things, some basic things that we need to go through. In the first half, out of the 10, we talked about identify your problem, develop a plan, find yourself an anointed man or woman of God. We talked about sow a seed, change your ways, and your money must have a mission or an assignment.
Yes.
Now, the next thing we want to talk about is after you start on your road to recovery, this is number 7, do not create more debt. Talk to us about that, Don.
Well, that I think is what got me in this situation I was in the first place.
Right, yeah.
Is that you would get free, and as soon as you have an extra $200 available credit, you find some place to go and make sure that's used up as quickly as possible, in essence, you know.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, what we do once we are free, don't get entangled back into it again. You've already gone through the process. You've already gone through the steps. You've worked it out. Now understand where you were and where you are now. And again, of course, everybody knows that being free is better than being in bondage, and being debt-free is much more profitable than being in debt. And so once you've created that freedom, don't go back into those same routines or those same habits that you had, you know, from the beginning.
You know, we talk about life is choice-driven. We live and die by our choices. So is that point of actually making that choice.
Correct.
I guess making the choice that'll keep us from going back. Number 8 says, be not entangled again by the yoke of bondage. And I think that sort of
pretty much ties into the same. Yes,
same,
exactly right.
Same principle, you know, going
Yes,
back to what we were doing. And number 9 talks about make a commitment.
The biggest step of all, because once you make that commitment to do it, you have to know within yourself, within your heart, that you've made this commitment not only to yourself, make it to your family, make it to God, and then stay with that commitment that you've made in order to see the process through. There was times when my sons used to call us stingy, and because we didn't want to go out as much, but we knew within our minds and our hearts what we were trying to accomplish and what we were trying to do. And we had to stay with that commitment, even though we were challenged, even in our own home. We still had to stay committed to what the plan was. And as we began to do that, it began to work out. And you know, pretty soon we were going on to vacations at different spots and different points, and they understood, you know, where we were.
It took some patience and
Exactly.
some discipline
Yes, sir.
early to get where you
get the
wanted to
results.
be. And then hopefully that'll be a principle that they'll be able to, you know, follow, because
We
you've
definitely
modeled
certainly
it.
hope so.
There's
As with all parents'
guarantee.
prayer and all
Right,
parents'
yeah.
dream is that their children will understand. And not only just that, but it's so many different other areas. I mean, we've been down the road. We know what to expect. We know what is out there. And this is for all you children and young adults that are out there. Listen to your parents. They are wise.
Yes, yes. I have a saying, the greatest sign of wisdom is to learn from another's experience. Then we would not have to experience if we would get that. And I wish I would have actually applied that to my life when I was young.
Don't we all?
When I was young enough.
Yes, sir.
Now, number 10 says, make daily confessions. And I know one here, you got, I will never be broke another day in my life. Number 2, I always have bread to eat and seed to sow. Number 3, I expect favor. Number 4, I receive unexpected increase. Number 5, I expect supernatural debt cancellation. Number 6, I am the head and not the tail. Number 7, I am on top of everything I say and do. Number 8, say the church's confession over your finances.
Correct.
Now, a lot of people watching, they might not be aware, and, well, what is this? You know, is this just another positive talk thing? Talk to us about this confession piece.
Well, actually, it is
in life.
pretty much just that, yes. A lot of people are exactly where they said that they were going to be. Some people said they'd never be able to afford a house, and they never did. And some people said I'd never be able to drive that kind of car, whatever kind of car it is that they wanted, and they don't drive it.
Okay.
And as a result, we are pretty much where we said we were going to be. God is, of course, a man of words, and he said, let there be light, and of course there was light. And then, of course, as he made us in his own image, we also have that same type of authority over our lives. So pretty much where we are is a result of pretty much the things that we said we were going to do and where we were going to be in life.
And I found, as an educator by trade, I find the young people and I say, this is what we're going to do. Well, I can't do that.
Absolutely.
I say, well, if you say you can't do that, the person that say they can't do it and the one that say they can, they're both correct. You know, so
Absolutely.
you know, both of them are correct. One believes they can, one believes they can't. I was talking to a young lady, and she was talking about I'm miserable. People frustrate me. Well,
And that's her daily confession.
that's her daily confession.
Correct.
You know, I said, if you get up in the morning and say this is going to be a great day, and people aren't going to confess,
Yeah.
you know, going to.
All right. Or if you stump your toe, and because you stumped your toe, oh, I'm going to have a rough day. I'm going to have a bad day.
Right. So,
Well, nobody said that except for you.
for you.
Exactly.
So self-fulfilling prophecy,
Absolutely.
I guess, would be what a lot of that comes down
Yes,
to.
sir.
Well, we've been looking at these practical things that we do, but even in the practical, we can do those things, but sometimes there are a lot of, you know, financial products and insurance, and there's all kinds of things out there that a person says, you know what, I know I need these things, I'm making conscious decision, I've heard what you said, but I don't really understand a lot of these things that I hear in these products, and I know this is part of the business you're in, and we're going to talk a little bit about this, and if people want to give you a call and talk to you, you know, personal about their own unique situation, we'll put the information up so they can do that. But we just want to talk about some of these things in areas where we talk about cutting back in a lot of areas. But when it comes to life insurance, is that an area we should cut back in, or?
Definitely not, because it has so many different components to it. Of course, as you're familiar with the term insurance, that's just there, and it's pretty much just set up for a term, be it 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long you want to have it. And that's usually for someone that's younger, and they want to make sure they have some money to cover a certain expense in their life in case something, you know, happens. Of course, and as things have happened this last year alone, a lot of things have happened, but you have that insurance to cover that. There's also the whole life insurance, which also has a cash value to it, which is very important these times, during these times, because a lot of people have lost a lot of money in their 401k and their IRA accounts, etc. But insurance has a guaranteed portion that it will be there for you. Okay. So if you invest in that, you not only have the insurance coverage for the face value amount, but you also are growing a cash value at usually at about a 5% rate of return.
So that allows them to dual insurance for their life, which doesn't do them any good, but it's meant to be for their loved ones
for
that
the loved
they leave
ones.
behind.
And that's pretty much what I stand as a lot of time as an advocate for the family. You know, that to know that they have a voice, to let you know that you can buy the rims and you can buy the 95-inch TV or etc. But at the same time, once you're gone, your family needs to make sure that they're able to maintain that same level of lifestyle that they're used to, and that insurance face value covers that. And you know, as a minister, I can go to different funerals, and I've gone to visit different families, and they're crying for more than one reason. Not only did the person pass and leave them earthly, but they also were, you know, $50,000 or so in debt, you know, with no way and no means to cover the expenses of the burial or all the debt that was left behind. Insurance covers both areas of those.
And as far as how much insurance someone needs, I guess they would really have to talk to you, assess their situation and all the factors
a needs
that
analysis
go in, a needs analysis,
we would do. Exactly right.
And then you would be able to help them out. I just know, you know, when it comes to life insurance and the biblical principle, what I was thinking about, it says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children.
Absolutely.
A lot of people, we can take and over-spiritualize stuff. Well, you might not have the money in the bank to leave an inheritance to your children's children, but if you have the appropriate life insurance policy and the appropriate will, you can set up to leave an inheritance.
I mean, without a will is what we call intestate, which means that you have now left a decision of the state, of a lawyer, of a probate attorney to determine what happens to what you worked for. So why not create a will, be it a simple will or complex, whichever, you know, based on your financial situation. But a simple will can cover pretty much everything. And you have it there, and at the time of your demise, your family already know who gets the television, who gets the chair, who gets the car, you know, etc. And it's all settled. There's no more family wars. There's no more fights about, you know, Mama said I could have the radio. All of it is taken care of. Exactly.
And it's a shame because, you know, and I've been around, you've been around, and we've seen families and being ministers that it's terrible to see families end up being destroyed over these worldly possessions because the person didn't plan appropriately.
Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if a will was left in an insurance policy that granted $100,000 or so payoff, and they'd be crying, but not really too long. So it'd be okay. Everybody'd be happy.
So I say my wife, she'll be upset when I die, but it won't because she's broke.
That's exactly right. Very good point.
And that's a good point to have. Another thing we talk about here that you have here is annuities. Talk to us about annuities. What is that when we hear this term?
Money that's available for you. You can set it up for whether, for your grandchildren, for your children's college fund, or a retirement account. And it's all set up for you in that whole process. And then as years go by, you have money to draw from to live on or to handle those other expenses that you might want to save for.
So a person may, with young children, may set this up planning for 18 years out or 15 years out. And then they may have another plan that is projected out 40 years, as it were, for their own retirement.
Exactly.
And those are types of things that you can help them sort of lay out. Well, that's good. And yeah, health insurance. We know the importance, but that's another big government thing. How many people do not have health insurance? And
the ones that did have it, there was over 599,000 jobs that ended just this last month, I believe.
Right.
All of those people are now, if they had insurance connected with their employer, are no longer insured.
At best, they get 30 days.
Correct. And then they say COBRA. And if you could not hardly afford it when you were working, a COBRA payment is just astronomical.
And that COBRA is just buying independent insurance, right, on your own. And it's very expensive. And we know one significant health problem wipe out everything a person has.
Correct.
Just one.
It can do it. Another portion of service that we offer is what's called a long-term care.
Yes.
And that is the greatest depleter of senior assets is if by chance they have to go into a nursing home or have to have some sort of coverage. What a lot of people don't tell you is that you can have Medicare, but Medicare also comes with a variety of supplements. So if you don't have a supplement for it, then you don't really have enough within the initial Medicare piece, which then forces you to go into Medicaid. And Medicaid pretty much lets you know that you've pretty much depleted everything except for probably up to about $2,000, and then possibly a car or whatever, something that's needed.
If you have any kind of assets, they're
all gone.
They're all gone.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Well, I'm sure that our viewers have really enjoyed this, and you gave us some foundational information that we need to do to consider our ways when it comes to managing our finances, and not only our finances, but managing our life and setting ourselves up to succeed in the future and taking care of our families.
That is absolutely
so I'm sure people got this message to consider their own ways, each person looking at themselves, and I'm sure some people will give you a call and they can talk about their specific situation. Yes, but we appreciate you stopping by Family Matters once again.
Thank you, sir.
And as always, we thank you for tuning in to Family Matters, and it's our desire that you continue to have a family of love, joy, and peace. Until next time, you have a great day.
A family of love.